Hello everyone, this is Luke again, and welcome back to yet another Ninjago video onto the channel today. So, it's been a while, but luckily I have finished Dragon's Rising Season 2, finally, hallelujah. But this video is not going to be talking about that, as I'm going to leave that, how I feel about Dragon's Rising as a mystery for a little while. Probably because Dragon's Rising Season 3 is technically around the corner. So, um, part 2, part 2 of Season 3. Or if you've followed the last two episodes, um, that strangely never were recorded by the leak by Roku, I don't understand it, But that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is what kind of led me to finally gain, I guess, the confidence in me to watch Dragon's Rising Season 2 after a year and a half of not watching it. So, let's get everything out straight. So, let's get a little timeline of events. I made a video towards the end of the year, last year, talking about how 2024 was not a good year for me. And it wasn't, because early in the year, there were people who made damning statements against me, saying that I did some very, very heinous things to them. And because of that, a lot of people who I grew close with in that side of the community wanted no part of me anymore. They blocked me. They didn't reply to my messages. Nothing. It's almost like I didn't exist to them anymore. And there were people that were really close to me that did end up doing that, and it felt like I was not only stabbed in the back, but also stabbed through the heart. Like the people that I didn't really were close with, it felt like a stab in the back. But for the people that were close to me, it felt like a stab in the heart. It felt like they took my life, my soul, my spirit, my essence, everything just drained out of me. And for a long, long time afterwards, I felt soulless, like a husk of my former self, which is why I tried my best. I absolutely tried my best to make it seem like I was okay, but in reality, I wasn't. I wasn't okay then. I should have made it more clear to you that I wasn't. Um, and for a while, um, I felt aimless, driftless, and but that's where you know nothing other than that though. Nothing really major came out of 2024. Then we get to 2025 this year, and things were healing. Don't get me wrong, they were healing slowly but surely. I met some incredible people on the Ninjago wiki that um that really just I don't know, they really helped through that process. Because I explained everything that happened to them, and everyone was very sympathetic. They said, "Oh, we were very sorry you were put in that situation. It, we hate that this happened to you. We're welcome. We welcome everybody, anybody, and everybody. You won't be judged like you were in the past." And it was a bold decision, but I'm glad it was one that I did take. And um, and I felt some solace in that. Um, but if anything, I feel like I have to make to Um, there's one person though who, in my opinion, really made it possible for me to properly heal, and that was someone who I just collabed with recently. My good friend Tom's lawyer, aka Tom the Realist, aka Pixel Penguin, whatever term he wants to be called. I remember DMing him. I remember seeing his video about Dragon's Rising, and I I don't think I watched it in full, but I did follow him, and I remember he made, I don't know exactly what post on his story he did, but I ended up agreeing with him, and we ended up talking, and then we ended up becoming friends as a result. Um, I told him everything, and he went through everything that was still left on the internet, because a lot of the stuff that was made against me was scrubbed off of the internet, which really just showcases how stupid the whole thing was. Because if they really meant every word they said, they would have kept it up. They would have kept it up to prove it. But no, as far as I've seen, everything was since taken down, which really showcased to me that this was just performative bullshit. That they saw something against me for whatever reason, and just wanted me gone, I guess. I don't know why, but they just wanted me gone. He looked into it and he found, he made his own decision that I didn't do the things they said that I do. I was just a misunderstood person. And when he said that, when he believed that, I felt my heart, it kind of felt like, how the Grinch Stole Christmas, where his heart enlarged 3 times towards the end. Because it felt like, I took a major, huge step in healing, because I finally found someone after all of this time who believed what I said was true. Because I tried telling people, and it felt like they weren't believing in me. It felt like nobody was on my side, you know? And and I'm glad he's my friend. I'm glad he's there. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Tom, for being part of my life, because you really helped me. You really did. And I cannot thank you enough for rescuing me from a very, very dark period in my life, and for listening to every word that I said, and not basically thinking I was this evil, evil human being that everybody said that I was. Um, and so I cannot thank him enough. And I felt like those, starting with Tom, and then we had the Ninjago Wiki. I finally gained the confidence to, I feel like, watch Ninjago again, because I didn't want the pain of those previous events, with that community, taint my memory of Ninjago forever. Because that was a show. That's a show that I grown up with since day one, and I didn't want it to be tattered in just a bunch of bad memories. So then we had a a little mini series called Ninjago Monstrosity that came out in, um a couple of months ago, I believe, or a month or two ago, or something like that. And it was focused on Kai, and this was focused on um him finding his way through the merge before he met up with Lloyd in season before the events of Dragon's Rising. Um, and I remember watching it, and there were several things in there that just, it reminded me of the journey that I went through, basically, because it felt basically like the same thing, albeit just presented differently. Like Kai was lost in a world that he couldn't fathom or couldn't understand, in the physical sense, because he was lost in the merge. Whereas with me, it was a mental sense. It was lost in my own mind, wondering who I really was. And then Kai met, I guess, some dragon. What was her name? Daidan? It's spelled Daidan. I think that's what it is. Um, and I don't remember the exact plot. I know she was like, I guess, what it was something about an egg. Kai was, I guess, protecting the egg, and this dragon was like, I remember she said something on the lines of, in the world of madness, or something like that, you kind of have to resort to being a monster, or something along those lines. I don't think that's exactly what she said, but it was something along those lines. And that made me really think, you know, was I a true monster? Were those things that those people said about me true? That's what it made me think about. And later, as the short film progressed, because it's divided into 3 5-minute like little shorts, but it's all, I watched the full version, which is like a short film of like 15 minutes. Um, and then we get into the second part of it, um, where where Kai meets this rusty soldier, who's ironically, I guess, named Rusty, even though he was never name dropped by that name. Um, and I guess this little fire mech soldier thingy, I think I remember correctly, he said something about him sharing a really good bond with his old fire master, but ever since he he was gone, he couldn't find a spark. You know what I mean? He just didn't have it in him, and that was like, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. It's like, that's just, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's just, it felt like I was speaking to a mirror. Basically, it's like I had to do a little double take of, is he talking about me? Because and then you just needed that someone to find your spark. In this case, it was Tom. It was Tom that found, and the people on the Ninjago wiki that, um, found my spark. It was that, the sorts of community that loved me, and you know res- that that give me a voice again, because prior to that, I felt like I had no voice, that my voice was stripped away from me. And now I feel like I could say however I feel again. I feel like I can finally express myself again. I can finally be happy. I can finally showcase that I am happy, or showcase that I'm sad or anything, instead of trying to bottle it up and hope, pretend that everything is fine. Um, and then we get to the last part, which honestly, it's kind of a little dark-ish. Um, but there was a part where Kai is, I guess, sees a mirage of Master Wu, and he exclaims that he's been so alone, and that, you know, and when Kai said that with broken voice and all, it's like, yeah, that's me. And I it reminded me of all those previous people that I was, chatting with, all these previous friends that I had, and I had pictured myself with them chatting and laughing and stuff like that, like how Kai saw, um the rest of his family, Cole, Jay, Nia, Lloyd, Zane, Master Wu, everybody, in this little mirage, to the point where it almost looked like he was killing himself. I know he wasn't actually killing himself, but it appeared, the way it showcased it, it really looked like he was killing himself. Um, and that was, you know, it wasn't until the dragon from earlier, Daiden or Daiden, shows up to the rescue. Or was it the Rusty? I don't remember. But either way, um, I think for that moment it symbolized, my the people that gave me my spark again being by my side. And as long as I have those people in my life, and hoping that they will never ever ever will betray me like they did previously, I will be grateful. I will be happy, you know? So I'm sorry that this wasn't like a deep dive into, monstrosity, because the thing is with monstrosity, it's not that long. It's 15 minutes. You can watch it on YouTube. Um, I'm just talking about what monstrosity means to me as a human being and as an individual who's went through so much over the course of a year and a half, um um prior to watching it. And it's exactly what I needed to really get that spark again. And I remember watching it, and when I finished, if I felt like that little stab wound that I had metaphorically had in my heart, it finally healed itself up again. It felt whole again. I felt like a complete version of myself again. And I just I remember sitting in my room and I just smiled. I just smiled. This the biggest smile I could, because I felt at peace with everything. I felt like I finally got the closure that I needed from everything. I just needed it because I was in so much pain back then. And yeah. So that's my story with Ninjago Monstrosity and how it healed all the wounds that I had in here and in here, along with countless amazing people that accepted me and listened to me and gave me my voice again. So to those people that I mentioned earlier, thank you so very much. Because without you, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I would be here right now. I don't know where I would be. I finally can be happy again. I finally can be myself again. And I'm sorry that, you know, a big reason for these lack of uploads is due to those emotional feelings, but that's the truth. That is the truth. I felt, you know, completely aimless and driftless, um, because of everything that happened. And now I finally feel like I'm on the right path again. And I just cannot thank them enough. I feel like no matter what I do, it's not going to be enough to really appreciate how much they've done for me. But um but I want to hear your thoughts. What does How did you think of Ninjago Monstrosity? And if you have Ninjago installment, anything, or even an episode, or even a scene, or a character, or anything. So tell me in the comments. Sorry if I repeated myself. Tell me in the comments. what do you think of Monstrosity? And if there's like a special scene, a character, a season, an episode, or just a specific moment in Ninjago, do you have does it mean something personal to you as a person and as a human being? How much did it like change you or make you a better person, or just made you feel better as a made you feel better, like giddy inside, all that? Um, Let me know in the comments, because I love these stories of, how, some of these moments and characters speak loudly in certain volumes. And I bet a lot of the team, especially the voice actors, when, people clamor on their favorite characters, they get inspired by a lot of the messages about how it gave these characters give us the strength to continue moving forward. I'm glad they hear that, and I hope that this will forever continue and be a staple of Ninjago as a whole. Um, but yeah, I this like little special little mini film, whatever you want to call it, gave me the resilience to go forward, along with several other amazing people in my life. Um, but anyways, that's my story about Ninjago Monstrosity. Um, Sorry if I blabbered on too long or anything. But I had to get this off my chest because um if it wasn't for it, I would have probably quit watching the series, Um and yeah, I'll no hopefully you'll get notified whenever I make another video, whenever that may be. Hopefully whenever Dragon's Rising Season 3 drops in full with those last two episodes, I will, redo all the bunch of the rankings and everything and stuff like that. Um, so hopefully by either maybe 2025 or even 2026, I'll have modern take on my rankings, and you'll see what I feel about Dragon's Rising Seasons 2 and 3 when the time comes. But until then, I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel by clicking on the red subscribe button, and click on the notification bell to see every video that I will upload. And I'll see all you folks in the next video. Bye bye.